this might be a little farther up the hill for Endpoint than, you know, Leaf might be given this is Guild team credit for, Turtle, as we get underway.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a close one. I think that, obviously, Guild, at least in my eyes, are the superior team coming out here just because of the sheer speed. And I just say that because out of Endpoint, I get a little bit bored, I guess. And I don't mean that in an offensive way, okay? It feels like sometimes Metanaris doesn't want to step up, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, who is going to make that initial play to spark some brilliance in this Endpoint roster?
And demos are great, and they can afford you tons of opportunity, but it's not the only phase of the game you can be excellent at.
Exactly.
And, I mean, though earlier, Turtle, while you were making your point, he had a clean shot at the net, and he got way too far under it and hit the crossbar. We just saw Guild on this stream earlier, where all they could do was hit the crossbar in the post, it felt like, and hopefully that doesn't carry on throughout the rest of this match, but game one, not much fanfare past that missed opportunity from Tho. He had a light tap over to Virtuoso, which he's able to easily follow up on.
Yeah.
And now another shot for Scrub. Relating Wave couldn't dive back. Scrub Killick knocking the first one in for Guild.
Yeah, and it's nice that he was able to get this one early on after that miss off the crossbar like you were talking about with Tho, narrowly missing the goal. It's good to get that precision back because I was about to say, I feel like hitting the crossbar in this game, besides demos, is probably the most tilting thing because you come so close, and we know that Guild struggle mentally sometimes with getting tilted, getting a little bit too emotional in their gameplay, and it's just good to get that initial goal right away after a huge miss.
And now the team really has to, you know, go full on sweat. This is our last chance. Both teams are 2-1 today.
Yeah.
So they can afford to drop one more, but as every team would, you'd like to get out as early as possible. So far, Guild seem to have the better angle than Endpoint right now, and Scrub Killer puts in his second, getting that one, sneaking it in above Relating Wave.
Yeah, and it's the predictable clears. You see Virtuoso, he actually went upside down in the net to try to get this one out. And I wouldn't say that's necessarily the smartest play because it was a little bit panicked. I think he had time to readjust himself instead of forcing that one out right away. He thought the Guild offense, was going to crash the net. Instead, opted to go for the easy right-away clear and just gave away possession.
Well, Endpoint, they haven't really had much possession to begin with in these first 2 minutes, though hopping right on top of another challenge. And while Virtuoso gets the next touch here, the continuing touches on defense were something they were struggling with, but they get 3 in a row there between the entire team. But it's about retaining that past midfield. If you can't do that, Guild will be happy to keep collecting the boost, finding the hard clear against you. The 50 game isn't really favoring Endpoint right now.
Well, you know, my question for you, Jorby, is like, if somebody on this Endpoint roster has to make a step up on offense, and it's not just with the demos, I mean, who do you think it's going to be?
Well, I think that Endpoint as a unit need to do a better job of, at least in this game specifically, of finding the path down the field and like right there in midfield. Virtuoso, he wanted to play second man on that challenge, but you know, someone was already there to defend the play. So Endpoint aren't necessarily, or not Endpoint, rather Guild are positioned really well on the first man challenge. But Turtle, really to answer your question, I don't think there's any one particular player on Endpoint that need to step up. They need to be picking their battles wisely and also still having the rotation to allow them to follow up quickly on their touches and just put themselves in better chances for 50s overall. Guild has done a good job swatting the ball away, and we've spent very limited time in the orange half.
Yeah, and I think it's the predictability, too, that comes out of Endpoint. A lot of times we'll see them go for a clear hit where Guild, it's so easy for them just to put themselves in open space, and Endpoint are eventually going to find the ball and clear it directly to that area. And Guild have no problem with just taking possession, dribbling it out, and then keep attacking from there as the demo is flying left and right. And again, nothing is happening. It's like the demo's the pressure, we're forcing Guild to panic, and there's nobody there to crash the net from the rotation.
There's the pass to Metanaris, and he banged it off the post.
It was there.
Yeah. The best chance they got. They might get a second chance, but Nolly, very quick to the ball. Defense has been solid for Guild. Relating Wave dumping that ball back in front, but nobody from Endpoint were ready to receive it. It was right over Metanaris' head, trying to recover. And Guild, a quick pass over to Scrub. Metanaris pulled back, and it forced Relating Wave up to his own backboard. So you saw one and a half opportunities from Endpoint. Now they're back on defense. They lost their boost to Nolly, and they're having to flip forward. We saw Virtuoso. He's not even playing the challenge anymore. He was just looking for a boost, and Guild are back on their backboard. And when Scrub gets little touches like that, Turtle, it's got to be really frustrating for Endpoint. Doesn't feel like anywhere you sit is the right decision. Even there, Metsunaris, another chance, he can't find it. Relating Wave's touch is for naught and nothing for Endpoint at all.
Yeah. And when you play that style of going for demos, being over physical, having the ball slide across the backboard, the rotation sometimes doesn't always find its way there. You know, that third man won't always crash the net because it's a bit risky after a demo to fully commit because you get scared. What if, you know, the option to go in and throw yourself at the corner wasn't the right take? And I think that for everybody on Endpoint, they're just getting a little bit too passive. And Metza, the shooting, whenever he does push up, he can't even capitalize because I feel like he's just slightly too slow to get a good angle on net.
No, he had his best opportunity that came off Relating Wave's pass, and he had to, you know, shoot past the defender on the play, and you want to go as hard as you can right near the post to sneak it in between the defender, because that's the only thing you had time to do, and just ended up banging it off the post. And then the crossbar hit was, he was in a low boost situation and couldn't knock it down. But that was the result of all of the takeaways that Guild had, especially in midfield. Endpoint were never really able to grab control of the boost. You saw Virtuoso diving towards midfield just to contest a boost, so they could actually have a chance the next time the ball gets cleared to their back wall.
Yeah, and it's not like there's not holes on the defensive Guild too. While we have to credit their midfield challenges in the 50s because they are absolutely destroying Endpoint in that aspect of the game. There's definitely chances for Endpoint to put one in, to have some aggression and some pressure where they can result at least in 1 or 2 goals, because in that first game, I thought while Guild carried most of that pressure, I thought there was definitely opportunities for Endpoint to capitalize, and it's not like Guild played the perfect defense, you know?
I mean, Guild aren't a perfect team. We've seen it today.
Yeah.
And they can certainly be taken advantage of when you start to find some consistent pressure. That's when you see the double commits come out. That's when you see the solo hero come out of all 3 of these players. But they haven't really felt that heat from Endpoint just yet. We'll see if that flips on them as Metsunaris carries this. Nolly, the whiff, doesn't matter. Virtuoso respected the clear, so we'll have to try again from midfield. Guild being very careful with how they progress, knowing that Endpoint were pretty much clamped down on offense. Though has a breakaway opportunity, but hard to sneak that in. Nolly pot shot in front of 2 defenders. Only back for Tho. Relating Wave gets bumped, but he recovers. Really just put directly into the path of the ball.
Oh, and a beautiful play there from Scrubkiller. His teammates under pressure. He gets 1 touch, then follows it up with a 50. That's the defense we want to see at a Guild. And I just mentioned it didn't seem like they were playing perfect defense, but right now, with the challenge game, getting in front of Endpoint and also denying them from going towards the goal, like even there, for Virtuoso, he's forced to go to the right side. Tho now can get a hit. It seems like the rotation's looking perfect and always having an answer for a shot.
But Endpoint are getting a lot more in the orange half than we saw them get in the entirety of game 1. That's a big win from Nolly against Relating Wave. But then Tho got bumped out of the way. Virtuoso doing a lot of work. Tho gets a bump of his own, which will allow Scrubkiller to try again here against Relating Wave. But quickly around to the corner. Endpoint tired of playing as much defense as they have. Virtuoso, no boost, will hope to give somebody on his team a chance for a clear. But the close passing from Guild there. That's the struggle for Endpoint. Midfield game is all Guilds.
Yeah, and they need to find plays like that, the little tiny taps between 2 players, and also finding each other on offense. Look at the passing play. If we're going on the other side, it seems like Endpoint can't connect like Guild do here.
Nolly had Virtuoso clean beat on this play, and Metsunaris, he was expecting a shot towards the far post, but recognizing the space he had and Metsunaris' momentum, he chose the backside. Great shot and a great progression from Guild. Mets, he got the double back to Virtuoso, but Endpoint will be forced to try to get more creative on offense.
Yeah.
It's been lacking so far.
Yeah, we're missing the sauce for Endpoint. I feel like they need something to spice up their offense, make it a little bit different. And it can't just be those demo plays from Virtuoso. It can't be the midfield game, because right now they don't have any. They can't find little passes to keep possession. It's just big clear after big clear, hoping that Guild will mess up. And every single time, Guild have an answer, and they don't make a mistake.
Well, Scrub gets behind. This actually got the flip reset, but Relating Wave was already in position for it. A nice carry by Tho, and Nolly punches it in. This is beautifully done by Tho.
Yeah, look at the control to follow up after the 50 and be aware of where that ball is going to bounce, because usually after you flip into a 50, you're kind of confused, you're a little bit all over the place, but for that to bounce back into Tho, still have possession, flick that one out, an outstanding play from him, and now they've got security and that safety net.
And that little touch when the ball bounced off the back wall.
Yeah.
That Tho was able to just give it that soft touch to actually grab control of it so he could pass it to Nolly. It was excellent split-second decisions. Or split-second reactions, rather. Relating Wave picks up the very first for Endpoint. It took just over 8 minutes of gameplay for them to find the net.
And I think we saw 4 players actually challenge the ball in the corner. I'm not sure what happened there because the defense at Guild, 2 players might have double committed on that challenge, and also 2 players from Endpoint, which left the goal wide open so long as the third man, who was Relating Wave, came in and crashed the net. So good initiation from him to at least step up to the plate when the shot was presented.
It never really matters how you score the goal. The goal being scored alone is enough to maybe reset your mentality a little bit.
Right.
You've been feeling pressed, but maybe it can be the spark Endpoint need. We'll see. Guild has been pretty tough to break through because of little touches like that, where you don't necessarily get to the ball, only the player, and Guild still have possession.
Well, and it's also the little follow-ups after a 50. I mean, Tho did it to get them the security goal, and even right here, we just saw Nolly actually use it to follow up after the 50, get a little touch, and keep possession, at least force out another defender to dive from Endpoint. And it's that little extra step out of the rotation from Guild, or even the midfield presence, that keeps them in the lead here.
Well, Nolly played it close to him. It forced everyone else back, just waiting for Tho to shoot that. And Endpoint very happy with their decision to stay planted. Now they're back into the orange half, but can they turn it into anything consistent? Virtuoso wanted a pass, but there was just too much juice on it for anyone to jump for. Now all they can do is play into the corner. Metanaris cuts in, tried to take it himself, but Nolly's got the clear out. Tho actually turns away.
Here we go, here we go.
Relating Wave to touch the ball, making Metanaris and Relating Wave a chance, but it's no good, and Scrub Killer will roll it back out again. It always comes down to that midfield 50-50 for Endpoint. They can't commit, or they can't have consistent pressure, but a pass from Virtuoso back to Relating Wave will give them the lead. I thought losing that ball in midfield was going to kill them, but no, Tho gave it right back.
Oh, and that's all thanks to Relating Wave. They lost that ball in midfield, but then Relating Wave cutting off the clear to keep the possession. That's the little touch that we were waiting for so they could continue to press on. It's like Endpoint will always get a solid opportunity, and then a good save comes out from Guild. They have nothing else to keep hammering the net with, but now with that interception, they could continue forward and force Guild to make another mistake, and they capitalize.
This is where you might get worried for Guild, unless Scrub Killer can really get a solid carry, and he does try to keep the ball away for as long as possible, but just a little time left for Endpoint. Metanaris off the back wall. Relating Wave will receive this. Virtuoso's there, but too far to the side, and Nolly got the ball up. Guild says, no, we want to win this right now. Virtuoso will win the next touch. Both of these teams playing to end this right now. Virtuoso's touch denied again by Nolly, who has been crucial to Guild's defense. Scrub Killer off the ceiling, up to Tho. Now a challenge straight in front of the box. Relating Wave will take it away. Does somebody finally kill the ball?
They're keeping this up.
No, Scrub still wants to play. He got it back to Nolly, but it's got to be Tho. He's there and he kills it. No more play. That was fun.
I'm a little bit disappointed. I wanted to see how long we could go. It felt like both teams just collectively agreed to keep that one up, despite if you're in the losing position. Now in the midfield, Relating Wave, he turns in. There's so much space. The shot, it's so weak. And Scrub Killer has an easy save, even when he has to dodge a defender. Or an offender,
Dove into that ball, and now Scrub Killer, another air dribble. He's air dribbling more and more with every touch he gets. He's been successful in winning the 50 on his first contact on that air dribble. So, you know, if it's working, why change what you're doing? Yeah. And he's going to flip that over to Nolly. This actually might catch Endpoint out, except Relating Wave found himself in a good spot on the back wall, but it was only good enough for a second of respite, because here comes the ball, but Tho didn't expect to whiff that hard. Nolly low off the corner. There won't be a play here for Guild.
That was such a good look. I think Scrub Killer was the one who got the offensive demo, and the clear was massive. Though in that situation, especially if a demo comes out, you have to assume a mistake is going to occur because they don't have any boost. You have a booming clear. The demo came out. You just get a little bit baited by somebody who might touch the ball, and now off the post, they can't put one in. It's still tied up in overtime.
Oh, poor Tho. Tried to sneak it in past 2 defenders. He was almost successful with it. Virtuoso makes things really awkward for Guild. Tho barely managing the time now for Guild. Virtuoso can't beat Tho to the ball. A couple of crucial touches there for Tho, and a third one. Now Nolly can pick it up. He beat Metanaris. Pop, air dribble. Does he have it? No. Scrub Killer having to maintain possession. And Nolly and Tho sneaking back in. Tho almost found it, but the post is his worst enemy today. Just cannot find the back of the net. That is a dangerous challenge. Can he grab it? Yes. Tho making up for it on defense. Can he get back to the ball? Well, Metanaris was following him the whole time. Now Guild just trying to play it slow. Metanaris is not having any of it. Nolly diving back again. And Endpoint forced to wait. Guild get out off of an incredible defensive stop. And Tho almost put it in himself. Guild immediately splashing on the blue half, but still nothing.
I love what I'm seeing. Counterattack after counterattack. Both these teams. You can see Endpoint now starting to pick up a little pace as they move from the defensive end. I'm very impressed with how they pick things up because originally it seemed like they couldn't even find any passing plays, and they were just waiting for Guild to make a crazy play on offense. But now both teams exchanging blows, and Guild, I gotta hand it to them. They look a little bit more threatening. So long as they have better accuracy, I can see them taking this overtime easily.
Well, Tardo, this is the reason why both teams wanted to end the game in regulation, because they knew that this overtime would be so tense.
Oh, yeah.
There's been
It's
so
scary.
many close chances, and it really works on your nerves. The more seconds that tick on the overtime clock, the more anxious you get. Great pass to Scrub Killer, diving stop, and that pinch out will give a little bit of time for Relating Wave and Mets to clear it back, but Scrub Killer popped it into the top of the net, and Guild collect their second game in the match.
Yeah, and this is what happens whenever you starve out the enemy team. Metza and Relating Wave both under 30 boosts, scrambling to find something, picking up pads. They couldn't get in position fast enough, and that is the result of all that pressure. It seemed like they would exchange a couple of counterattacks, Endpoint, they'd break out a little bit. They could never keep it. Meanwhile, Guild, they were starving them out. You could see Scrub Killer going for some demos, even faking it. Sometimes he just drive into the net, make a goalkeeper jump, leave. It's that type of play, that type of confidence that Guild push up with that gave them the lead here in overtime. And I'm excited to see, because Endpoint, this was a much better game. While they still lost, I think they can continue to pick it up and make this a much more close series than we thought.
Yeah, I don't think this is a slam dunk for Guild, but credit to their defense, something that we haven't been able to give a lot of credit to overall, but Endpoint did a good job in the second half of that game, making balls awkward in the box for Guild to handle. And usually that's when you see them double commit, bump into each other, or just really mishandle the ball, where you'd like to see them settle down. At least one player was able to settle down, be in the right position. Even when they were all bunched up in the box together, they still somehow managed to get out. And Endpoint, They didn't have an answer for it. They had a couple of opportunities. 10 shots on net is great, but they're not making the task difficult enough on defense. Off the kickoff, Metanaris will pick up a goal, and that's certainly how you reset the tone if you're trying to get back in the set.
Yeah, this is definitely a difficult task to recover from. 3 seconds in, the kickoff doesn't go your way. Metanaris just forces that one in for Tho, who would have gotten the save. And that's how you want to start out at Endpoint. They've had a frustrating series. And I was just about to mention Guild. They've had so many shots on net. They've been bouncing off the post, the crossbar. That's a struggle that they had in the previous series we watched with them. And now Endpoint have been giving them so many chances to warm up. It seems like the shooting has picked up immensely. And now we've got a much more close game, so long as Endpoint can keep making crazy plays like that kickoff.
Another point in Endpoint's favor is that they have not been swept by Guild at all in the 6 matches that they've played against each other. So they can at least feel a little better about Game 4. It's like, look, we haven't gotten swept yet. There's not a first time for everything, right? However, Guild are ready to get right back in it. Tho picking up his next.
And it's always from these corners. Even the overtime, it was, I believe, Scrub Killer who found the angle. And these guys just don't stop with the shooting when it comes to those corners. And you can see Scrub Killer, that double tap to follow it up, to get it out into the midfield, set up everything beautifully for Tho, who was actually the main setup guy in the previous match. So this is something interesting to see all of Guild kind of rotating in with playstyles and who's doing what to benefit the team.
Virtuoso to start this catch for Endpoint. And a good idea, but Nolly has been proven to be a monster on the orange half. I don't know how many 50s he's lost, but it can't be more than like 2 or 3 in the entire match. He just seems to always come away with the ball on his own half of the field, and it has given Guild so many opportunities. And Endpoint finally sneak one through. Virtuoso off the crossbar.
Oh my goodness, I got a little bit scared. I saw this one hit the crossbar, but credit to Relating Wave to air dribble that one all the way across. Virtuoso was in the midfield waiting. An early shot on net from a pretty far distance outside of the box, and he can put that one off the crossbar and in. Endpoint. Usually Guild, in that situation, we see somebody interrupt the pass from Relating Wave, but since Relating Wave got another touch, that made all the difference.
Well, Guild will still play it close with Scrub and Tho. Scrub actually doing a lot of work here in the blue half. The rest of Guild following his lead on this play. Tho, a quick rotation back to Nolly, will force all of Endpoint to shade toward that side. Nobody immediately available, but they have plenty of time. And got the ball out to Virtuoso. Now the rest of Guild, they're sitting back waiting, knowing exactly where that was going to go. Scrub Killer waiting on the back wall.
There we go, another corner play, but Metza getting in front. That is the defense we want to see with the 50s. Virtuoso and Metza now getting a little bit too close to each other, but look at the patience from Virtuoso forcing the 50. Now they can move out, but the pressure is still on from Guild to turn there in that rotation from Scrub Killer. That was so smart, but no, that's a big miss. And let's see if Endpoint can capitalize. Nolly, again, the defense, another shot. So close, Jorby. This team, Endpoint, they hit the crossbar, it went in, and this time they hit the crossbar. It doesn't end up a little bit fortunate for them. Instead, bounces out.
Nolly waiting for that ball to bounce on the rebound, and then to hang on, another shot's coming. So we'll let it bounce back over to Scrub Killer. But giving him a chance to at least go for the attempted clear, it was still really dangerous. Endpoint had a great shot on that. That was just a great save from Tho. And a great pass from Tho. Tho doing a lot of work in the last minute, and Nolly the benefactor.
I think this might be one of my favorite plays in Rocket League that you can do. It's whenever somebody's on the backboard waiting for a pass up, your teammate has the confidence to send it all the way up to you. You get a touch that goes back into whoever passed it to you. It looks so clean. It's so well executed. Everything on the side of Guild in that play was fantastic. Tho, again, with another insane setup for his boys. And then the shot from Relating Wave, Endpoint. It's too good with this shot. The response is there.
More and more rebounds are coming off the back wall for Endpoint. That was credit to Virtuoso. Good hustle to get back to his touch, where the defender was expecting that to drop a little bit more, maybe get a hard clear, but didn't expect Virtuoso to push that ball in as hard as he did.
Yeah, that's what happened with Relating Wave's pass earlier. It's that second touch that Endpoint are now getting. We never saw that out of the first few games from them, where they keep following it up, and now it seems like they're staying a bit closer to the ball in the air with the air dribbles. Relating Wave did that earlier, and now we see it again. Tho, why do you need an air dribble when you can just take out the goalkeeper?
Yeah, fire up the engines. The giant air bomb right into Metzenaris. He just kicked his nose out of the way. I was like, I don't care if I can't get under this ball anymore. You're getting out too. Wonderful, wonderfully done on the air dribble bump.
That's frustrating. I think that might be the most tilting. I just talked about one of my favorite plays in Rocket League. That is my least favorite play to be a defender in. If you get bumped and they don't even get the extra touch, you're just mad overall.
Well, Guild haven't gotten too mad yet, as they've been able to respond to every Endpoint goal so far. Endpoint unable to get any multi-goal lead in the game that they've looked best throughout the match, and it just got a whole lot worse, as Guild haven't been able to take the lead just yet, but they do now in game 4 off of
the bump. Nolly, are you kidding me? That is, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed. First you get the air dribble bump play, and then now you take out the third man rotating in to get the save, Jorby. Would you be tilted? I think I'd be tilted.
You don't like bumps and demos?
No, I mean, I do, but it's so much right now that I feel bad for Endpoint.
But actually, no.
I feel for them. I feel for them, okay?
Hey, look at Virtuoso. He's got Metzenaris in space, but not enough space. Nolly proving himself on defense again on that last play. Still, Metzenaris, high ball in front for Relating Wave, but Scrub Killer is up for it quickly. Now, how do Endpoint retain possession in midfield? Relating Wave was back on this rotation. He'll just carry the ball in front. Again, trying to make a awkward situation for Guild, but Guild come out of it in a pre-flip from Scrub. That was so fast, and it gave a lot more power onto the ball. He almost hit it directly on his nose. I thought that was going to turn into a multi-goal lead for Guild.
Yeah. Well, and you see Endpoint, a lot of their tactics right now are bringing this ball up, go for an air dribble, rinse, repeat to find another touch, and then Metza in the midfield. I'm confused. I thought somebody was going to rotate in as the third defender. Did he get bumped, or was this just such a good pass into the space that nobody could rotate in time?
I don't think Nolly expected the pass. Nolly was playing Virtuoso to carry the ball, positioned himself for that, and I don't think he ever saw the pass coming. Yeah. He was blindsided by it. He's like, oh, that's a hard pass across. I got to turn tail. Oh, and they get another? Oh!
Not even close. Again. Not even close, Jorby. It wasn't even close. I don't know what you're talking about.
Close only counts in horseshoes and something else, relating wave.
I didn't know the end of that quote either.
Well, I know the end. I know the end, but
I don't know the end, so.
Metzonaris will catch this. Endpoint were able to tie it up at the end of regulation, and they're able to take the lead with 7 seconds remaining. This has been a shootout, and Guild's defense, as much as we had praised them, it's all falling apart.
Yeah, and it's bound to fall apart when Relating Wave is being annoying. He gets the demo and then turns around to finish off the shot, which is something you don't see normally. The player who gets the demo most likely rotates out, and the confidence for Relating Wave to turn. He recognized that his third man back wouldn't have got the shot in time. Endpoint now take it, and we've got a series on our hands, Joe. But you were right; they're not going to get swept. Okay, this isn't where they're going to get blown out the water. This is something where Endpoint are finally coming into contention, and we can see that with the plays.
You can, and Endpoint, like I said, I just felt they did a better job mixing things up. I think that was personified in when you were looking at Nolly as third man, expecting Virtuoso to air dribble the ball because that was what he had done the last few times he had possession. But the whole time he had a teammate waiting in midfield on every single one of those opportunities. He finally picked a different option, and Nolly was completely fooled. And I felt like that helped swing things back into Endpoint's favor, where they were able to sustain their 1-goal lead, but it was really hard to actually pull away from Guild, and they almost lost control of it when Guild took the lead with that 4th goal.
Yeah, and it was an action-packed series. We had basically every aspect. We had the demos, we had the air dribble passing plays, we had Tho staying on the backboard, we had Relating Wave. Who was it in the midfield? I'm not sure who actually opted to go for the flick out into the midfield instead of keeping it close. And that's the kind of mix-up that we want to see from Endpoint. Because Guild, it was basically a very calm game for them, where they could just keep assuming that Endpoint were going to air dribble every single shot, or every single pass, excuse me. So for Endpoint to mix it up, we expect the same thing now if they want to keep this series and force it to a game 5.
Guild will pick this up on the kickoff. They've been pretty hard for Endpoint to stop.
Yeah.
Endpoint's defense has not been a point of positivity during this match. So long as Guild can keep winning those 50s in midfield, keep themselves in a solid position for wins like that, where you're constantly making Endpoint think about the very next touch, and then you force them into hard clears. You force them to race for boosts rather than being in control of the pitch. And that's how this started at first, but there's a little bit of space for Metzonaris. He couldn't grab onto the ball. And that's a spot there where you really want to start putting pressure on Guild as early as possible. You know that if you can put them in a state where they're not feeling good, where they're stressed, that's where they start making mistakes. But they can't hang on to the ball for long enough to let that be a factor in the first minute.
Oh, not the best read from Tho. Nolly got that one out into the midfield a little bit. Could have been more centered, but either way, we expect a better hit from Nolly, who didn't predict it as well. And that's something that Guild have kind of died down on, is understanding where the ball is going to bounce, where their teammates and the enemies are going to hit that ball. As that one almost gave Endpoint a chance. I'm a little bit surprised too, because it felt like the defense from Guild was all over the place, and Endpoint could have capitalized.
It was just a Metzonaris whiff. He tried to jump up to the ball as quickly as he could, and he overshot it. He ran out of boost, couldn't recorrect. And that's going to be a high ball for Guild. Last game was a departure from how good they had been in their backboard defense. Things are starting to return to form. New game, new life.
Yeah.
As some would like to say. Scrub Killer winning a big 50 against Relating Wave. Virtuoso's touch is not going to be good enough. Nolly wants Tho, but he couldn't really wrap around it enough. Didn't have enough boost to get quite the finesse he wanted.
Big clear so far from Endpoint. And whenever they're on offense, I would actually like to see more power. I feel like the hits they're coming out with on offense, off the corner, off the backboard, a little bit weak. Sometimes they'll catch Guild in a slower rotation. I've even seen Tho had to use reverse a little bit here and there. And if you're doing that in rotation, that is not a good sign. So if Endpoint can hit the ball with a little bit more power, kind of hit some boomers off the backboard, that's kind of what I want to see to catch the slower rotation from Guild off guard.
Well, you just saw Relating Wave on that last attempt. Virtuoso was in front of him, and he was attempting to make the challenge. Relating Wave didn't have faith in the challenge. Metzonaris back to make this save, still in trouble. Oh, that was just not right where Scrub was. So that will be back in midfield. But Endpoint starting to feel maybe a little panicky. Because if Relating Wave, if he had stayed on the ground there, then you're talking about a massive man advantage for Endpoint and a quick counterattack. Instead, when have we left the blue half since that last play? It's been a while, if it's not just straight back to Tho as third man, who's done an excellent job carrying the ball downfield for Guild. If Nolly is the mind on defense, Tho is the guy to give you the chance downfield. And Scrub Killa is filling the gaps in between in this match. Certainly been successful in his 50-50 game, but not much to scream at for Endpoint. Their gumption on offense has certainly gone by the wayside so far. They need a new spark. Guild have shut them down, as Guild haven't scored anything either, but you definitely feel like Guild have gotten the better of Endpoint.
Yeah, I think the only thing we're missing out at Guild right now is the prediction of your teammate off the crossbar. Again, I thought it was going to go in. They got maybe one goal, I think it was last game, off the crossbar that went in their favor, and then other than that, it just kept bouncing out. This time, somebody is there to put it in, even if it does go off the crossbar.
Well, poor Metzonaris just can't have anything go his way today. That's the third time we've seen him hit the crossbar. The other two times were in low boost situations. That time, he's just trying to sneak it into the top and hits the crossbar again. That's got to be really frustrating as an individual player to just constantly miss the mark by, a couple of centimeters.
Yeah, I think it's plays like that that make Metzo want to be passive. I feel like in every interview we've ever had with Metzo, he's always like, no, I don't want to be aggressive. I don't want to be the guy who's always on offense. And yet, it's probably because he's hitting the crossbar. He's getting frustrated. He doesn't like the fact that he can't put that one in and gets so close, gets so far, as they're still pushing up Endpoint, looking to extend this lead.
It's a long clear for Virtuoso. And Endpoint continually trying to test the box. Oh, got tested big time, and this time Metzonaris puts one into the net, and it's a big multi-goal lead for Endpoint late in game 4.
Oh, and Tho, he's so patient there. He saw the hit go off the ceiling. I don't know why he didn't turn in. I'm not sure if he had any boost. I'm going to go to his perspective. I'm not sure. It felt like he had definitely less than 30 in the tank, because otherwise I would have expected a faster challenge. He's just waiting for Virtuoso to fly past the ball, but Virtuoso was able to land under it, get another hit, and throw off the defense. You got to be faster to challenge if you're Tho.
So now a sense of urgency. If you are Guild, you won the only match point series that you played against this team this season, but you'd really like to not make it that close if you don't have to. You're talking about 2 goals every 10, or a goal every 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And now they're going to start here. Tho, his challenge is lost to Virtuoso, and that was the big thing that has hampered Endpoint all match long. This time, they are the victors in midfield, and definitely the victors of game 4.
Oh man, the defense is just breaking down, and look at the rotations. This is kind of what happened last time with Guild. It's like we have 2 players rotating back to net when nobody wants to take the initiative and turn in on that rotation and go for a challenge. They're just kind of letting Endpoint shoot the ball, expecting it's not going to be that powerful so they can go on a counterattack. And Endpoint, they're not biting.
Yeah, I mean, to Guild's, not saying like in Guild's defense, but Endpoint, for the most part, have given them backboard reads and backboard defense and trying to force the ball into the corners. Like, that's what we saw Endpoint do for so much of this match. So, it kind of almost, it felt like habit for Guild. It's like, well, he's just going to bang this again, and we're going to get another chance down the field. But no, they're taking their chances with some of these infield passes, and they're winning. They're winning them, but they got to keep those mix-ups going, Turtle. We talked about how Virtuoso mixing up a couple of plays in game 3 is what helped them, and mix-ups again are what help you. If you're always keeping Guild guessing of what you're going to do with the ball next, it puts you in a much better position on offense.
Well, I don't think Guild have adapted to the mix-up. I'm thinking back to that play in Aquadome. That was what changed it all. Whenever I keep thinking it was Relating Wave. I'm pretty sure it was him. I hate how I can't remember, but Relating Wave, instead of air dribbling it off the wall, he just hit it right to the middle, catching Nolly off guard. And as soon as that play happened, you have to understand, if you're on Guild, that Endpoint are trying to switch it up. They're not going for the routine plays anymore. They're not just throwing to the corner. They're going for all types of different angles to approach the net, which is what they should be doing. And Guild, you have to read into that. You have to understand, adapt, and force yourself to push forward and get some more challenges, because Endpoint, they're mixing it up. Guild, now you have to.
The second time this season that these teams have gone to match point. And not the most important match of their day, but the potentially last match of their day. So who will secure a spot for the next stage? Endpoint have swung things in their favor, but things are pretty fickle in that department, because Guild can quickly march down the field and put it right in.
It seems like Tho is always on the receiving end, or honestly the passing end, of these crazy plays with Guild. He's always the one who starts it or finishes it. In this instance, he's finishing it off that great pass from Nolly. The rival series synergy comes out. That's the way you want to start out Game 5.
More of what we maybe expected of Guild early on. Oh, Virtuoso. He blazes this one. Yeah. There's a lot of fire behind this ball.
Oh, and who is the one in net? It's Tho who's back. He's rotating, trying to get a hit, and he just can't because of how fast. Yeah, there's literally nothing you can do against that with the speed.
Tho already turned around. You're not expecting 118 kilometers per hour in your face.
Yeah.
That's what he got. So Tho will just dump that downfield and say, Nolly, you deal with it. Virtuoso will take the ball back away from him. Guild, oh my goodness, what a read. That ball. Yeah.
Look at that read from Metza. That is insane. That clear from Tho was huge. And now relating wave off the ceiling could have done something. Scary positioning from everyone on Endpoint, and they have certainly picked it up. This is a completely different Endpoint than what we started with.
Really, Endpoint haven't gotten as many demos in these games either. Instead, they're just clicking like a well-oiled team machine. Relating wave just dumps it downfield. It goes the distance without being challenged. Yeah. Metzenaris doesn't even have to leave the backboard. Where is Guild?
That's why the play was so insane, is because Metza, he didn't even jump to get the ball down. That's how much of a finesse he hit the ball with. He was so controlled with that touch. And again, we're looking on the defense. Where was somebody from Guild to meet him on the backboard, get in his face?
Why does the ball go the whole distance? Why does the ball go the distance of the pitch? Whoa, oh my gosh, Relating Wave picking up the save, recovering on his initial flip. It's just things like that happen. It's what keeps me on the big question mark.
Well, it was working earlier where Guild could just wait for Endpoint to not use all the space that they're given in midfield, and then Endpoint could just go for a counterattack. And now Endpoint are like, you know what? I see all this space. We're just going to boom clear it to somebody on the other side, because you guys are waiting way too patiently on the backboard. Not even on the backboard, just in your own half. And we're going to make use of it.
Oh, Nolly couldn't put a really solid shot on. Virtuoso will wait in midfield. He's got Metzenaris, who actually ends up winning this touch. Relating Wave had to turn around, but nobody from Guild is coming to challenge. Again, waiting on the backboard for something to happen. And the only thing that's going to happen if Guild just plant themselves on the back wall is that they're not going to be able to jump off. They got stunned, and you get scored on. No one's challenging Endpoint.
It's the prediction again. Guild can't figure out where Endpoint want to go with the ball. I'm looking at Tho. I was on his perspective. He was hanging on the backboard, waiting for Endpoint to smack it against the backboard, which is what they just did to get that previous goal. So Tho was like, okay, this is probably the most likely situation. No, Endpoint mixed it up. They go for a close midfield pass, and that's how they put a shot on net. Tho can't make the challenge, and Endpoint, again, come away with a goal.
Metzenaris is having a much better back half of this match. He has 2 assists in this game, and his touches have just been cleaner overall, have been solid, have always put Guild either under pressure or finding a pass out to his teammates. Just felt like he really struggled in games 1 and 2 especially, where he was constantly low on boost. He could never really find his rhythm in the game. Well, Metzenaris has found his rhythm, but that's thanks to all 3 players on Endpoint who are clearly gelling right now, and Guild have to react to everything Endpoint are giving them. It may be Endpoint who come away the victors, but there's still some time left for Guild. Nolly would love to get things going. Scrub's gonna turn back around, pop a ball up in front, but it's easily mended by Virtuoso. Still, Guild can hunt and Tho will get another solid touch. Nolly jumping up, but Virtuoso was already in place.
I love the speed there from Virtuoso, and also the prediction. That's something Endpoint have always been superior to do on defense, at least in the later half of the series, is predict where that ball is going to bounce and where, GLD are trying to go with the ball. And even there, Virtuoso gets in front of it. They can just keep stopping those shots. Is this one almost an own goal? I was scared for Tho for a minute. It was actually the best touch you could get to go off the backboard, and still scary situations for GLD.
Love when the unintended touch was the optimal touch all along. Yeah. I love it when that works out. That's a hard ball towards the net, and GLD were left scrambled all over the pitch. 4-1 Endpoint.
And I'm on Scrub Killer's perspective again. This is the mix-up we're talking about with Endpoint. In that instance, relating wave, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10 for any team, whoever it is going to go for a pass, a clear pass to find somebody in the midfield, and that gives Scrub Killer more time to get back on defense, but instead he just bangs it towards the net. It's out of nowhere. GLD aren't expecting it, and they don't know how to predict anybody on Endpoint.
Oh, this has completely flipped as far as the match is concerned. GLD looked very clean on defense, and they had good offensive opportunities as well. But then Endpoint just changed up how they were approaching these touches. They weren't air dribbling into the backboard as much. They weren't trying to force plays into the corner. Instead, they were like, well, GLD keep pulling off. So we're just going to have the whole field to play with, and infield passes will happen. That's not really what happens on this play. Instead, Virtuoso just gets around everybody. Nolly was expecting maybe for it to come down into him. Maybe Virtuoso's trying to cut in for a pass. But no, Virtuoso just stays along the back wall, and it's awkward all day for GLD. Like, Turtle, you nailed it. They don't have any response. They haven't adjusted to these mix-ups from Endpoint.
Well, it just seems like they're a step behind. They're always trailing for Endpoint, who are actually trailblazing right now with the decisions on where they're trying to go. And GLD, they react. They're like, okay, they're starting to have huge clears now. Let's stay back a little bit more. And they push back. GLD has a more passive defense. Then Endpoint are like, okay, great. They fell for our trap. Let's just go for a little bit of more close passes where we can find each other in midfield. And that's how we'll exploit them. We'll take the win. The reverse sweep for Endpoint. It's that easy when the other team can't react to you.
A reverse sweep indeed, and a great match win in a record where you were really struggling against GLD. Getting a win here feels amazing if you're Endpoint. They move on and look really so much better. It just looks like they had so many more options to play with. Had GLD maybe adapted to the small ball that, I wouldn't say small ball, just the infield passing from Endpoint in the middle, like games 4 and then the beginning of game 5, maybe then they could have actually found those their 50 game again. But once they started losing 50s, they didn't seem to have anything else to go on.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I was just gonna say that series was so fun to watch because it felt more like a chess matchup and a game of chess more than anything else. Because sometimes Rocket League can tend to be a bit more random with crazy bounces. Even the previous series, there were bounces that was going all over the place. We didn't know what was happening. But in this one, it's like every single decision had repercussions, and basically you'd either get punished if you couldn't match that decision or react. And GLD, they were struggling the whole time, and it was really fun to watch and see how Endpoint recovered throughout that series and got the reverse sweep. Yeah,
and GLD, they're not out yet, but they seem to put themselves in these sort of spots more often than not. Can they get out in the last round and get to the next stage? Well, we'll find out about that later. But next up, Rix GG versus Solary. Our next round of matches coming up after the break.